Welcome to this first video on the Pyro preview. You can see the schedule up here. Pause the video if you need that. There are 4 different locations that you are able to spawn in at. Checkmate station I recommend. That's the one we're going to explore today, but here are the other ones. Do note that Patch City, the last one that'll come up here, is not. I recommend do not go there. The Armistice is broken at this time as of preview day 1. Now they might fix that on the way, but don't take the risk. Just trust me on that. Just do not go there for now as your primary station. When you wake up on this station, you end up with this weird situation where Checkmate is like, it's an old R&R station. This is not Ruin Station, which is something I had to keep reminding myself of. And it's so you're not thinking of like the Pyrotech Amalgamated's headquarters or something. But it is quite an impressive station. So you'll see a lot of the R&R modules. They're not in very good shape, and people are making do to survive. This is the habitation area. When you leave your room, this is what you see. There are good signages, but you have to know what to look for. There's the elevators that take you downstairs. I'm simply just walking around checking the hab areas out a little bit here. And I have a lot of editing in this video to keep it moving. Do understand that there's a lot more here. So if there's something you see and you're like, hey, what's going on with that? Ask me in the comments or reach out to me on Discord. Of course, I'm always available. Either way, I can chat with you. Or if you're on the subreddit as well, I'll gladly answer questions there. So on the elevators leave a little bit to desired, but so far we haven't had anybody stuck in them. But you can see the mechanisms are clear, and they're quite cool, actually. Notice the exit sign there. Once again, good sign pointing. And then near the elevators, in most locations, there is information on where the intermodal elevators go to. So there's like these interstation elevator system, not the hab elevator that we just came out of, but there's another elevator that like takes you between the refinery, the clinic, the place where you actually leave, called the entrance on the elevator right now. It's not exactly the most detailed name, but it does work. So if you're trying to just get to your ASOP, you go to entrance on the intermodal elevators. See some of these fighting areas that I found kind of interesting. You can't interact with them yet, but it will be kind of cool. Maybe you'll be able to train up your strength and your fitness and such at these locations, or maybe do some tests with your friends. Click how fast can you click or something. I don't know. There's actually some spotting areas, like people can sit and watch the fighting here. I didn't really understand that, but just thought it was interesting. You'll see these small trade areas that are in this same area just below the habs. And I think this is a sign of things to come in Pyro, where there's less like centralized stores, and there are a few on Checkmate, but there's all these small pop-up stores that do like one service or a couple different random services. And it reminds me a lot of like a rural town, basically, where like people fill a void. Whatever you need, whatever you're doing, if there's nobody doing it, they figure it out. Around the station, you'll notice like there's multiple places that sell armor, but they only sell a couple pieces. And then there's like one primary mega store, I'll call it. This is me trying to see if these people are affiliated with this. Maybe the AI didn't go all the way around. Tonight, the server FPS was kind of running everything between 9 to 12 early on, and then I'm guessing more people got online because the server FPS started plummeting down to 4 or 5. You stayed around there. You see this open fire pit right here with a griddle on top from an old pallet, which I thought was kind of funny. And you would never see that in Stanton. Obviously, the fire risk is too much, you know, it being an actual fire. Sorry for the screen tearing. I believe that's my motion that's my video capture is not playing well with the latest build. This is a preview build. This isn't even PTU. Just bear that in mind. So I apologize for that. When I was actually playing, I did not see these tears. But once I went through the reviews, I started seeing a few when I was reviewing the videos. So when you go through these areas, there's a lot of empty doors. There's these doors that seem to go nowhere. And I think some of them will be brought online. You can see this is the intermodal elevators directions, basically giving you some hints. There's a lot of weird stuff outside This is the viewing area that's still, once again, just before you leave the Habs, you can go to the viewing area. You'll see that there's metal as well as the asteroids and smaller objects. So remember, we're lucky that our spaceships are made out of real strong steels and all sorts of fun metals and alloys, and also have shields. And they will get a workout at this location. I recommend not going too fast coming in or out of the station, and we'll talk more about that at the end of this video. And boy, do I have an ending for this video. Quite a cliffhanger. This is me checking. I wanted to see what the FPS is doing, because I'm noticing like some things are real springing too, and other things are not quite. That is intentional, that elevator doors acting up. So there's a lot of things, including kiosk, elevators, infrastructure that we trust is kind of fiddled with in this in this station. But some things are just plain and simple. The server just needs to catch up. So if you look at my top right corner, I am running a 7800 X3D, 64 gigs of RAM on with a 4070 Ti. And it's keeping up. Once again, I'm kind of at the mercy, though, of the server FPS. The only issues I've seen on Pyro so far for FPS, by the way, is actually when I'm flying close to water on the side of a planet Bloom. So you'll see that they have the normal things, like in the refinery area, they have their ore sales. They have places where you can do trade transactions. And there's other places as well that do trade transactions. Here's your refinery. The main trade transactions are actually in the market, which is where the Galleria normally would be. That's kind of interesting. It'll be coming up pretty soon. But the administration's in the back of there, selling all sorts of interesting things. You can see that they have a lot of the armors and kits. I'll call them suits. Let's not call them armors, but the suits that you would use for industry. And unlike other places, you have some heavily armed folks that are very annoyed when you click on them. And I thought this was kind of cool. They actually have the mining lasers on the back wall here, a size 1 and a size 2. I think one of the Hoffs and what's the other one? One of the things doing voiceover while you're doing these is you're like saying to yourself in your inner voice, like, come on, keep moving on. So in this case, I'm talking to myself and also to my editing self, because I am a one-person band. But what you're seeing here is some interesting new equipment and suits mixed in with stuff that already existed. So I purchased these, and my intention is that I will test these out for storage capacities and the new pouches, because there's some new jackets and pants that can handle the pouches, some existing ones that can, and then basically we're kind of gonna have to figure all that out. And the new pouches, if you didn't check out CitizenCon's video on that, there's going to be civilian clothing and military clothing that is not armor that you can put these small, medium, and large pouches on, and you can fit more pouches on specific kind of equipment. Here's those lasers, by the way, the Klein and the Hoff. So it's a Klein S2 and a Hofstede S size 1. So it's kind of neat to see them strung up on the wall like that. Normally, weapons get all the glory. In this case, it's industry. You can note that they do have shop terminals in a lot of the normal shops. However, some of the shops that are fly-by-night, where it's just somebody on the side, there is no kiosk. So I'm assuming that they won't get a kiosk in the future. More of the bigger shops get that. See, the refinery is really well fleshed out. It's really an interesting build-out. That claw couldn't help it. So with a lot of these refinery areas, I think over time they'll get more and more gameplay where maybe you can even work in them, or at the very least do fetch quests and other things from the other end of them. So I just wanted to cover that. Inside the market area is an entire bazaar of, in every sense of that word. You can see the R&R logo there hidden away. So this is a rest and relaxation station originally, and the R&R outpost style, R&R station style, you can see hidden away behind all this temporary metal and wood and everything bolted everywhere. You're gonna learn to dislike the Noodle Man. They need to adjust these voiceover people to slow down their timings of how often they talk. Especially the Noodle Guy. The Noodle Lady actually speaks a lot less often, but the Noodle Guy speaks way too often. So these things are called Seanuts. They're actually grown on station. They are food, if you want to call it that. And they also, this is very important, reclaimed water is poisonous. So there's two different things you can do. You can drink reclaimed water, or you can bring your own water from Stanton. As far as we could find so far, there is no, like, purified water yet. I would be very interested to see an overpriced purified water in the future. There's the Seanut again. They grow them in giant vats, and you'll see them in this video, actually, where they've grown. I found that, too. So this is the meat skewers and these things. Alpha frats. They're crazy-looking creatures, and you can eat those as well. I did not find where they find these things. I don't know. In real life, I don't think I'd eat this, but I thought it would be interesting to kind of check out all the different foods, and some of them I like more than others. So once again, water is a premium, and the reclaimed water is actually like a biotoxin, basically. And then the rust, which is their version of like moonshine, if you will, alcohol, is, well, has a negative effect as well. So this right here is their noodles. So basically, you have to choose between two bad options for hydration if you're not just going to eat your hydration. The noodles is actually one of my favorite animations. They nailed this. I hope Big Benny's comes later with that same style. This is the rust drink. You'll note in the bottom left that this actually has a alcoholic, like a drug effect. I'd be careful how much you drink of that, but it might be a better option than that disgusting reclaimed water, because it's been heated up at least. This right here are cafe cubes. So these are slimy. They are like grown, and I don't think they have a flavor. I think it said they actually put those in the noodles too. Small versions of those cubes. Cubes are pretty neat. They're like Jell-O. It's pretty neat. Kind of like those. So this is the commodity section. As I talked about, the administration is buried behind everything. If you walk straight ahead, when you get first in the market, slightly to your left is where the administration area is. It's not like that buried. I'm making it sound harder than it is. You can see they have all the normal stuff except for AV equipment they don't want to buy. These are MREs of those Jell-O packages. These might be a better option if you're looking for something a little more professional. So if you have to buy food here and you're not a fan of all these interesting choices, there's some cool ones. This is a smaller weapons vendor that's inside there. He also sells clothing, utility clothing. So I wanted to show you his terminal. I like the new animations for the terminals, for the inventory. Those Seanuts you saw earlier, they actually wiggle inside the inventory. And in the terminals, stuff's spinning and it's very colorful. I like the style of these terminals as well. When they work, they're pretty neat. And I say when they work, not because I had any issues with the ones that were supposed to work. I did have issues. Like, there was some you walk up and there's like two and one's broken. Like, physically, intentionally broken. I think to show, like, infrastructure in this is really stretched to its limits, etc., etc. So bear that in mind. Sometimes you'll go up to something and you just look for the other one. It's right next to it. This is me buying time because there was a player that was checking out the other terminal. I went over to the terminal, and you can see some of the other gear. Note the sell tab on everything. Even the smallest vendors can purchase gear. They're not going to give you a lot of money for it, but the stuff that's like actually from here, they give okay prices on. So if you find NPCs with gear or players that you fight, and you find gear, or you just loot that gear out of boxes and such, you can actually sell it. This is some of the new shirts. As far as I know, they're new anyway. I should speak the logo shirts there, and a lot of them are anti-UEE themed. They gave me like kind of the market on Grim Hex type feel. Like this kind of stuff I'd expect to find there too. But, yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Once again, even the smallest vendors have a terminal. The market is really the only place. There is a Galleria sign that's kind of not there anymore, and it seems like that part of the station was part of the station that fell apart or exploded or something in the past. I hope to explore that in the future. But in this video, I did go to check out the Galleria, and there's nothing there. It's literally not even like an abandoned anything. It's just closed door. And, oh, one person's living space, which I think is a jumping puzzle. I'll talk about that in a minute. This is some of this ship weapons that you can pick up. The ship weapon store is a little less than desirable. Once again, though, there is some other ship parts kind of mixed around in other places. Like many stations nowadays, I should say. But I like the variety. I think it's a really cool style. I think this is giving us a taste of a small version of Ruin Station will be. So this is a little poker game setup. There is no mini game. There is no mini game, just to be clear. I tested it out. There's these turrets everywhere on this station. A lot of them do move around. So in the future, if Armistice is taken away, this station is going to be very uncomfortable for anybody trying to cause trouble here, especially if you're not friends with the Rough and Ready crowd. So the RR gang, not to be confused with the original R and R station, but Rough and Ready gang. They have backward R and a front-facing R on their spray paint is how you know if it's theirs. Also, the fact they're using spray paint. But the R&R gang run this place. Notice there's a little lack of oxygen pocket there at the front of the bar. You'll notice this bar has been built out. It's an old R&R station bar, but it's missing a whole bunch of the old arcade machine areas. They kept some of them off to the side. And then they added these booths too. It's a pretty nice setup. Bartenders did not work. Once again, you can see in the top right kind of the differences on the server FPS. But I think the bartenders just aren't working at all. This part here, once again, there's a lot of cinematics. There's a lot of NPCs walking around. I think this is giving us a taste of what the future is going to look like. There's a lot more NPCs than there are players, no matter what you do. Short of like players all stacking up on purpose to fill an area. I'm sure they could do that, but most of the time you're going to see a lot more players. Notice these turrets. Some of them actually have really good advantage points. So once again, future is interesting. This also gives you a little angle of the scale of the market area. It's like so many floors to it, and it's just really tall. I really like the verticality of this facility. You can get easily lost in here, but you can eventually find your way back because it's like circular on most of the verticality sections. Again, I apologize about those little artifacts in the frames. I did not see these. Once again, it seems to be just a hiccup with this Pyro preview, and I'm sure over time they'll be fixed. But it's just something to bear with me on. This hydroponics area I found was actually kind of interesting because of that water, which you cannot take, unfortunately, right now. Maybe that'll be a mission or something you can sneak in here and risk taking it, because that's clean water right there. Clean water, which is a very valuable commodity. As you know, these plants must be worth a lot. I don't know what they're for, but it is what it is. And then across the way, though, not so clean water is being used for the Seanuts. Apologies if I'm butchering that name. I'm still learning these things. But I think we all are, because Pyro was just a couple text things on the Galactopedia and a few lore posts. Now it's a real thing as of today. So these Seanuts they grow a ton of these in these vats, and that's what you're eating. They grow them right on this space. I wouldn't be shocked if some of the other weird things that you see in the market to eat are mass-produced on other stations around Pyro. Once again, that also adds an interesting market dynamic. A lot of security patrols, nice little areas. And then we're back to the turret that I talked about with the good angle on the market entrances. So this is the largest gun store that I could find that also had armor, and some type of products in the back that are questionable, probably. I'm betting that there's missions or contracts that you can do in this area. You can see that there's a commodity shop here. This is, I believe, dealing with the questionable items. So here's the actual gun store, so to speak. You can see how it's a unique setup where all these cases are arrayed. It looks quite cool, but it's very inefficient. In traditional weapon shops, there's like they usually put like racks up that are vertical, and then the weapons are stacked. It's kind of impractical to like leave them in cases like that are just awkwardly staged, but it looks neat. I think sometimes there's rule of cool, and also, you know, maybe this is the way they do it in their way. So there's 2 NPCs back here, and it looks like you can actually move one of those things and then get back further, now that I'm looking at the video. Then this guy's a data runner. If you look at all those server racks, data extractor, data runner, I guess we'll see. Those some of the armors. I try to note the armors and the helmets. I know they're very popular. So if you're looking for some of those things, it's another shop terminal. And that's about it. I think that's a pretty interesting setup. Here's some of the verticality. Note the RR logos and such, but the verticality of this is pretty nice. Upper tiers of the market, you're back going towards the bar if you go that way. And we're seeing some of the infrastructure. So many sparks, so many dangerous things. But it's kind of beautiful in the chaotic nature that this station is. I can't wait to see Ruin Station as well. This is some of those pathings that they talked about, how you can get around checkpoints and such. And this specifically is the old Galleria. Now, the Galleria is not accessible as far as I can tell, except for this little weird jumping puzzle, it looks like. So if you get up here, and I'm just going to fall straight down, but I did try to run this like 5 times after this. I tried to walk along the ledge in this part, and then I fall down. But I did try to do it like 5 times jumping across, and I just couldn't get there. If you follow it around the corner, it seems like it takes you to that spot right there where that bed was. And then there's like a little ledge to the left. I think you might have to climb through, but I couldn't get there in time, so I just said, you know what, I'm on a timer, so I'm going to get over there. So there's one of the broken kiosks right there, and then here's the working kiosk. So the left one's broken, the right one works. This is in the medical facility. And you can note the wonderful adornments of the apron there. Looks like blood. Oh boy. It's that kind of place. And you can note the broken Keltec speaker, the busted pharmacy there. This is some places, some people's last resort. And it is what it is. There is the numbers in the top right, even though the screens are mostly busted and such. And then on this one, it's partially blocked. So this is 5 where it sent me, but note there's like something blocking the 5. You can see the room is not exactly the cleanest. And yeah. But the systems do work. And it's worth mentioning. I mean, Checkmate Station, Ruin Station, and even some of the other smaller stations, I suspect that if any of them have medical, it's going to be extremely rare in Pyro. So if even smaller orgs, I'd recommend pool your resources, get yourself a ship of a significant size that has regeneration, or hopefully the Palo comes online soon. And basically start angling for those type of org assets where you have your own regeneration wherever you're operating, whether you're doing mining or farming an outpost for contracts or fighting other players or whatever you're doing. Regeneration is going to become super critical, and because these stations are few and far between, and once you leave these stations, you're going to have to fight other players. You bring attention to yourself going to these places. So the more you can avoid these places, especially if like you just have one player of your group that went down, you know, it's easier just to leave it local, regenerate local. You have them go back and recover their equipment or get their equipment for them, and then here you go, ha ha ha. It's just a joke. Whereas if you have to keep fighting every single time you go to one of these big stations and people are tracking where you're going when you're leaving, even if you don't have to fight them, it might not be the best. I saw more PvP on this single night than I have in probably a year in Stanton. Other players fighting each other, comments in the chat all night. And myself, I was being tracked by a Corsair that I didn't engage, and I just simply went over to an OM point, bounced back to another location, and they didn't come with me. And I was just like, all right, if you're gonna come chase me this far, I'll take care of you. We'll see what happens. One of us is going down, but luckily I didn't get to that because either they weren't able to track me past the OM, or they didn't want to pursue. It's one or the other. So you note with the medical shop that there's a lot of, once again, the kiosks have a lot of issues. Don't be fazed by this stuff. You can invest your credits with the confidence that this is good to go, even though the guy doesn't look good to go. Regeneration is functional, and the Kelto thing being so glitchy and clearly not being honest is so perfect for Pyro. They have another viewing area. There's a lot of these viewing areas in this Pyro area. You'll get used to that multi-tool sound. There's a lot of multi-toolers that are just multi-tooling it up all over the place on this station. To be fair, there's a lot of pieces falling off of it. It makes sense to add to the immersion. If you look outside, you'll see even more of that kind of stuff. So onto the hangar. So when you get to the entrance as it's listed, it's actually the hangars. You'll notice that there's all these little stores that used to be. If you go downstairs, if you stay on the upper stairs, you go straight from the elevators, straight across, you'll get right to the hangars. But this is kind of neat, this poor fish tank that's destroyed. I mean, this truly sets the tone. I mean, it's one thing to be a pirate, it's another thing to bust a fish tank. Some of those little tunnels, once again, this one shockingly goes pretty far. Bear with me as I inventory up to get my helmet on. I didn't trust whether or not my character would be able to make it, because I realized there was a lot more going on here. I could hear people running in the freaking walls, and I was like, okay, obviously this is where I saw somebody go in here. This is where they must all be. So I figured, let me just play it safe. We're starting to get to the edge of the station where there's hangars. There's going to be the outer walls of the station, and I don't know if it's actually no air here, but it was kind of interesting. So this is the engineering corridor below where everybody goes to these hangars. Once again, if you're in person non grata in certain places, you may be able to sneak past some of the patrols by doing this. But you're going to see in a minute that the hangars themselves have a lot of security. That's where the elevators are if you're coming out of the habs. So if you take the habs straight from the habs to the other elevators to take you around the station, go to entrance, that's where they would put you out, and then you walk straight around. Remember, I'm exploring the station, so it's not like I'm doing it straight away, but if you follow this around, you will get here. Notice the old entry point that welcomed you to this station, and the actual area where the hangar elevators are and the ASOPs are is kind of a really weird creature. It's huge. It's got to be 3 stories, 4 stories tall. And if you look from the up top here where this guard is, you'll see these elevators on the sides, and that's also where the ASOPs are near. So now we're now we're actually down where you'd walk in. Note the giant turret yet again and all the armed security. I can't stress how much this place would be horrible to try to deal with as a not so friendly person to the rough and ready crowd. Especially on foot. The turret does a lot of damage on foot, goes without saying. Notice how close to the metal you are here. You can actually hear all the different ships leaving and coming in. And you can look outside and get good visual indicator. The ASOPs are to your left and the right when you walk downstairs from where the security people are. And then the elevators are straight beyond them.
To the ASOP vehicle retrieval system.
Notice the ASOP's audio is all messed up. The thing's dirty.
Goodbye.
So it's quite interesting. The first time I went up, it actually threw me through a loop. So when you leave the hangars, this is what's going on. There was a lot of people riding the elevators. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have stragglers. There was a few things in this place that I'm leaving out. It is Armistice, but there's a lot of interesting clientele.
You are clear to launch.
So you'll immediately note that there's a weird shield effect, and these are from the smart particles. I don't think they're supposed to be inside, but the minute those doors open, technically they could come inside, I guess you could say. I think the idea is that the station itself, whatever failures that the station had that it destroyed it or partially destroyed it, also were impacted by blown up ships. So ships that have been scrapped, ships that are only partially salvaged, ships that have been destroyed by combat, ships that just crashed, ships that became derelicts and they just pushed them out of the hangar. It's a wing commander style. It seems like there's a lot of different reasons, but the point is that, as I mentioned earlier, there are these metal scraps. So it's not just you're looking for asteroids. There's like these micrometeorites that don't seem to do much damage, if any, to this ship, but you do need to be careful of this weird station geometry, pieces of the physical station that have fallen off, and also these weird, every now and then you'll see these giant floating pieces of metal, and they're kind of congregate in a weird group. There seems to be an orbit around the station. I dare I say it, the station's big enough, I guess, to do that, I guess, where the metal pieces kind of are circulating around the station. And you'll see that this area right here is just, it's less than perfect, but this is the station we just explored. And now that we see it from outside, you can kind of get an idea of why just some places are closed off, certain places are not. The answer is some places are in better condition than others. And on this side of the station, you can actually see like these huge pieces of just rock that they built into, and that's as far as they got. It's really interesting. So I'm going to wrap this video up on Bloom. I'm going to bedlog there. Bloom is the original Pyro 3. So Bloom and Monox were some of the names added to the Pyro system. Monox being Pyro 2, my beloved, and I'm going to spend a full night just exploring Pyro 2. And tonight will be Bloom, though. I've heard there's a few good locations to check out that aren't exactly friendly to outsiders, but they should be interesting. And Bloom is a pretty interesting location. It's a habitable planet. So I'm en route to Bloom. Let's play some tunes. Whoa. Okay, I'm hearing that there's a large coronal mass ejection happening with the Pyro star. This is the first one of these that I've seen. I'm not sure what class this is or anything like that, but it's gonna impact some of my comms for a little bit, I think, but we're gonna work through this. Just stick with it. Alright. Ship's holding together so far, it seems. I'm seeing a large electrical disturbances on it.